Hi, I'm Courtney Dyer, and this is my interpersonal communications project. Who we are is often a composite of what we think of ourselves and how other people see us, carry ourselves in light of those perceptions. That makes personality and temperament two things that are mutually inclusive, but which highlight very different and important aspects of who we are. As a highly evolved social species, human beings have various composites of characters. I'm making this presentation to talk about myself, or rather my personality type. The expectation is that I will inform the audience of how best to understand and thus interact with people of my personality type, as well as the shortcomings of my temperament. The presentation will outline the most influential factors that resulted in my current behavioral blend as an individual. Understanding the various composites of a personality is important in discovering the most effective means of facilitating interpersonal communication. Human beings require social relationships to be productive in all spheres of their lives. Effective communication is the only way to achieve this. Communication is both verbal and nonverbal. These two elements of human communication are the basic building blocks of proper communication. They contribute to establishing and maintaining healthy, healing, helping, and holding relationships. This presentation will thus focus on my personality dynamics can improve relationships both from a personally introspective perspective and a more psychosocial angle involving people. My overarching goal is to explore how to improve the social adaptability of the SC personality. Okay, now I'm going to talk about my behavioral blend. From the generated uniquely you profile, I registered as a high CS SC personality type. That alludes to me being a more reserved personality, not outgoing in the typical sense of the word. In interpersonal relationships, it sees me refrain from being proactive in doing or speaking out on my own volition. There is a distinct preference to staying behind the scenes, even in the instances where one has to speak publicly than it is with personal interactions. It shows a manifest fear in being front and center of the attention of people. My temperament is subdued. Therefore, people find it easy to consider me their friend since I'm a good listener. Due to the complementarity of the SC blend, I seem to be intelligent and knowledgeable. The graph shows that S and C traits allude to a person that is passive and people-oriented, as well as passive and task-oriented. As a task-oriented person, the test shows that I perform well in teams since I allow others to voice their concerns. France and Wickel note that individuals that focus on tasks and people, but with a passive temperament and personality, are often the most useful when implementing and changing organizational structures and cultures. Identifying in both S and C parameters sees me be the strengths and weaknesses of both categories. As a communicator, while there is good for me to be a leader, however, it hampers the ability to lead ever larger groups of individuals. Growth and the responsibilities of leadership often involves being in charge of ever-increasing numbers of people. Therefore, one can see that shyness and aversion to crowds and attention hampers progress in leadership roles. Otherwise, I'm seen as a resolver of conflict, with the only people tend to run out of patience with being those who deliberately become sloppy or who are incompetent within the work environment. As an individual, the reserved nature of my personality has marked effects on my leadership and team playing skills. As I am shy, speaking in a large group is challenging, but am great at interpersonal communication on a one-on-one level. The problem with strength come weakness is that it hampers leadership progression, since upscaling in leadership means being in charge of increasingly large numbers of people. As I tend to avoid conflict, I find myself being under duress and dealing with conflict retroactively instead of snuffing out incompetence and other work-related inefficiencies before they become major problems. Similarly, the personality trait often exposes me to insubordination more than normal for D and I leaders. The communication barriers. The most visible communication barrier occur as a result direct of personality incompatibilities between myself with others in the organization. These incompatibilities arise from the different means of communication that most of the individuals in the society adopt due to their most pervasive personality type. More specifically, it happens quite often that the most difficult communication barriers occur between personality types that differ in terms of active, passive, and people-oriented, task-oriented. Therefore, my skills set is supportive rather than an instigative leader or contributor tends to result in individuals overlooking my leadership or contribution. It reduces my adaptability to fast-moving interactions that typically form relationships in high-pressure areas such as the workplace. Being a reserved person makes it difficult to offer a consistent leadership to a dominating character. That manifested especially during instances where I ought to have interacted with large groups of individuals at once. My typical forte is smaller groups of individuals. Throughout the course, I found it difficult to express myself, even in just the discussion boards. Resources and strategies. The resources in question will touch on three major aspects of interaction with other individuals: conflict resolution, leadership, and being part of a team. Since I am a combination of both S and C personality traits, the resources that will be most effective are those that will combine the receptiveness that I portend on both levels. The first resource is understanding of the principles by which both personality traits operate in three different instances. Type S individuals value harmony among people and hence make for excellent arbitrators. They avoid conflict as a role and as such are more likely to compromise. Type C individuals are quite different. Due to their reserved and perfectionist nature, they tend to take even the slightest bout of criticism as a personal affront. Therefore, it is essential to attack the problem and take care to separate from the person to avoid future avoidance of conflict by the individual. That is how I should best capture the principles when identifying conflict and taking a leading role. Peterson notes that the main reason why individuals in close relationships fail to enjoy the full benefits of relationships is simply because they do not listen to each other. One of the most profound arguments that Peterson successfully puts across is that the only measure of effective communication is where the recipient has his or her needs heard. That seems like an easy thing to achieve until one is attempting to diffuse and resolve an issue between parties that may include individuals with dominant personalities. Therefore, it is imperative that this is clear understanding of how to marshal the personality strengths a type SC individual to bring out what they have typically expect of others so to make conflict management more satisfactory, bearable, and ultimately successful. Now I'm going to discuss my action plan. The action plan applies tools from the resources to formulate a viable and smart plan to chart a sustainable path of improving type SC adaptability in various situations. When managing conflict, the central tool to be employed is trust. A trust-based mediation approach not only identifies issues straight away, but also provides a platform for people to dialogue about the subject freely. A trust-based mechanism of solving conflict will allow every party to a conflict, including me as a leading participating team member, to have a coherent idea of what the other party's position is in conflict. It is essential that the action plan is specific, measurable, attainable, reasonable, and times. The SMART approach enables one to quantify the progress that one would achieve both as a team player and as a leader. In the case of the former, an advisable parameter to refer as a key performance indicator is turnaround time. It is obvious that increased communicative ability results in quicker turnaround time. Therefore, using company policy as a yardstick for optimal TAT and then measuring how communication can improve the KPI. The same applies for leadership positions, particularly in situations of conflict, management, and resolution is a significant component of reaching organizational goals from a time, resource, and infrastructural point of view. And my conclusion is change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we are waiting for. We are the change that we seek. And that quote was by former President Barack Obama.